Hey everyone, I'm Colin and I'm here to show you how to change out the buttons on your PlayStation 5 controller. If you're like me, gaming is a big part of your life. Whether you're playing a solo mission or streaming with your friends, you are the master of your world when you pick up a controller. So what better way to make your gaming experience reflect you than to customize your controller? Today we're going to take this plain black factory controller and make it stand out with some shiny new gold buttons. For the most customizable options and colors to customize your own controller, visit Gamenetics.com or follow the link in the description. Alright, let's do this. Alright, so the tools you're going to need are a tiny Phillips head screwdriver, a pry tool, pliers, and tweezers. You're going to start off by grabbing the pry tool and popping off this trim piece right here. And you're going to do that by taking the pry tool and putting it under the edge here and the edge here and popping up the tabs right here. There are quite a few steps to this process, but don't get discouraged. Just follow along and we'll break it down for you each step of the way. So what you want to do is take this, get it right under the edge there, and pop it up like that, and then the same on the other side. Once those are up, you can kind of peel it back like this, and it'll just pop right off. Sometimes it'll get stuck right here on the tabs, so you can take the pry tool and put it right under. But that came out surprisingly easy. So here are the first two screws here, and the other two are under the L1 and R1 button. So to pop those off, take the pry tool and hold down the trigger and get that underneath the button. When you do this, keep your finger on the button as you're popping it off because it'll probably shoot off. If you don't keep your finger on the button, it will literally fly across the room. And just pry up like that, comes right off. Same with the other side. And there's the other two screws. If you're finding this video helpful, remember to like and subscribe for more DIY fix-it videos and tutorials. We want to show you how easy it is to do some of these repairs on your own. Next, you're going to want to grab the screwdriver and unscrew all 4 screws. And be careful, there's a hole right there, so when you're unscrewing it, just make sure you have a hold on it or keep it upside down like this so the screw falls onto the table and not in that hole. It's a pain to get it out. And then the next one. And the other two are up here. Same thing with up here, is make sure not to drop them down into the controller. Now that all those screws are removed, you can pop the back shell off by putting your thumb here, grabbing like this and pulling it apart, getting your fingers in between, and then there's 2 tabs here that you want to pop back on. Like that, like that. Once those are undone, you can just pull it apart. Once the back shell's off, now you're gonna wanna take the battery out. The battery, you just pull up, grab as close as you can to the plug on the wires and just pop it out like that. Pretty easy. So next you're going to want to remove the ribbon cables. There's one right here, one right there, two right there, and one underneath here. Start with this one because it's the easiest. You just have to pop it up like that. There's like a little tab there that goes underneath that slot. Once that's up, you can just pop it out.
Be sure to pull the ribbon cables gently. Not only are they easy to rip, but they are hard to replace.
And then with these three, I use pliers because it's really easy. You just grab the little tabs and gently pull up. Be careful because you can rip these ribbon cables very easily. Once you pop those out, move on to the next one. Next, you're going to want to remove this battery cover. There's one screw there. That's all you have to unscrew. Once you're done removing that, you have this one ribbon cable right there. Grab that with the pliers, gently pull up. And once you've unplugged it, you can flatten it out so that it goes down through that slot. And now use your middle fingers and press on these analog sticks and it should just pop right up. All right, so the next thing you're gonna wanna do is remove these 4 screws. There's 2 silver ones here and 2 black ones here. Start with this one. Sometimes I use tweezers just so I don't lose the screw. Once those 2 are removed, move on to these silver ones.
Real talk, I'm using a tiny Phillips head screwdriver here, but a drill with a slightly bigger bit would work great. Sometimes they really tighten down the hardware when they build these at the factory.
A little difficult to remove with a screwdriver, so if you do have a drill, you could use that. These are a lot longer, so only put those screws in these spots because they won't fit anywhere else. Alright, so once you've removed those 4 screws, again make sure this ribbon cable is flat so it'll go through this slot. You can grab it by the rumble packs and just pop it up like that. So we're going to be changing out the buttons here, so you can just set this whole piece aside. Next you're going to want to remove these silicone pads. There's 3 of them. You can just peel those up. There's little holes right there that go on tiny little posts right there, right there, right there, and right there. and you just peel it back. Same with the other one. You can see the spots here, 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 and here. You just peel that back. Same with this one, there's 2 posts. Set those aside. And now with your tweezers, I'm gonna remove the D-pad. You're gonna wanna remove the D-pad and then the buttons. I take the tweezers and put them in the button and then let go, and it grabs them like that.
Now I pulled out the buttons with tweezers. You can just dump them out if you want. Fair warning, they're likely to go all over the place.
Set those aside. And then you can remove the PlayStation button as well. That one's right there. And now grab your buttons. We're doing gold, because we thought that would look the coolest, which I think it will. Set all your buttons aside. So once you've dumped your buttons out, you're gonna wanna grab the L2 and R2 and these black pieces. These black pieces are gonna be inserted into the actual trigger pieces themselves. So grab R2, L2, whichever one, and either one of the black pieces. And there's a slot right here, and then there's a piece right here. You're gonna wanna take that slot and bring it down over like that. And then once that's in there, you wanna press pretty hard until it snaps in, like that. Now that piece is inside there, and you'll use this as kind of a hinge. And then do the same to the other piece. Now you can set those aside. Now we're gonna put our buttons in. Start with the D-pad. There's a little tab right here, and you want that on the bottom part of the D-pad. So just drop that in. I would hold it like this when you're putting in the buttons, otherwise the buttons will come out. So now grab all your buttons, all your triangle, square, circle, X buttons. It's hard to tell because they're not on the actual button, but the way you can tell, might take a couple tries, is there's almost a code on each button, little notches and tabs rather, and each one is coded to a certain spot in the controller. So like you see this one has 3 little tabs and a big tab. You want to find the spot in the controller that has 3 little tabs and 1 big tab, which is right up here. Right here. And the same with the other buttons. This one goes up here. Once those are in, grab your PlayStation button, put that right in the middle. Once you put those in, don't forget to take out the option and select button. Those are easy to forget about. Set those aside with the other ones. And then take the options and the gold options and select button. So with these ones, you're gonna know which spot to put them in because there's there's a small tab on either side of the button, and you want the tab to be on the bottom left and bottom right, if that makes any sense. It'll be pretty obvious because you'll go to put it in and it won't fit, so just put it in the other side. But make sure these little tabs are on the bottom, like so. Once those are in, you can grab your silicone pads, and there's one that looks like it has circle edges and then one with square edges. The square edges are gonna go on the D-pad. So you can just lay that over and line those posts up with these 4 holes. And once you've lined one up, just press it on, and then the rest are lined up as well. Just press those down until you can see the black part of the post right flush with the silicone pad. And same with the other side. Make sure those are good and in there. And then same with this little one. Once all those are good, you can set this aside. So after putting the buttons in the front shell, now we're gonna move on to the triggers. The triggers, there's 4 screws here and over here that you're gonna wanna remove.
Be really careful with your screwdriver over the circuit panel, especially if the screws are tight and you apply a lot of pressure. You can end up slipping and scratching the circuits.
These ones are pretty difficult to remove, so if you do have a drill with a small Phillips head bit, I recommend using that. Once those screws are removed, this trigger will just pop right off. When you're unscrewing those, keep your finger on this trigger here so that it doesn't fall out. And the same with the other one.
Remember what I told you about the drill? They can be pretty tight.
Once you remove those, this will drop out. You can set this aside. So once you've put the buttons in the front shell, grab your triggers. Either one you can start with. I'm gonna start with R2. And there's 4 screws. There's one there, 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 and underneath this ribbon cable. So you're gonna wanna start by removing this ribbon cable, or unplugging it rather. I use tweezers. You can use your fingernail if you want. I take the tweezers, put it underneath these 2 tabs here, and push up, and it just pops out like that. And there's that other screw. So we'll start with this screw. With a good amount of pressure. These ones come out pretty easily. Make sure to keep these all in their own pile because some of them go to certain things and fit better. They're all pretty much universal, but I like to keep them separated. And then move on to these 3. So with this last screw, make sure to keep this pinched because this piece of plastic here will pop off. We're gonna pop it off after, but we don't want it to fall off prematurely. So once those screws are removed, pop this piece off. And then there's another piece here. I'm gonna slide that off of the peg right here. Set that aside. This comes out and so does this. So don't remove that. Make sure that stays in and just be careful not to, I keep a hold on it so it doesn't fall out. Then you're gonna wanna remove this metal post right here using the pliers. You just grab it like that, pull it out. And once you do that, the whole trigger comes off. That's R2, so you're gonna wanna grab your R2, your customized one. There's kind of a hook piece right here and a metal spring. So with the hook piece, there's kind of a spot there that you want to hook that onto. And then when you press it back in, make sure this metal piece goes on this tiny, underneath that tiny piece right here. Once you do that, and you want to line up this hole here with these two holes. So once that's like that, you press down, kind of press it like you're gonna actually use it and line those holes up. Once you do that, keep that held down and grab your metal post and put it through. So once you put that metal post in, you're gonna grab this other bit. This other bit has a hole here that you wanna put this metal post through. And it also has grooves here, little notches that are gonna link up with the gear here. So make sure this gear is pointing down, all the notches are pointing down. Insert that on there, and you wanna line those inside grooves of this piece up with these grooves.
These are called haptic triggers. This means that there's a gear inside that can change its resistance and sensation level depending on what's happening in the game.
Press that on and to check, push it all the way this way. If you don't see any grooves, then you're good. And if you don't see any grooves on this side, you're good. What can happen is you line it up improperly, like this, and you go in to check and it won't move as far as you want it to, and you can't even barely see the whole gear. And then when you push it this way, you see this extra groove that's not catching anything. So you don't want that. What you want to do is pop it back off and line up those gears. So now you can see on both sides that there's no exposed groove and it moves properly. So once that's on, you want to push it so it's in the middle, not all the way here, not all the way there. Push it so it's in the middle. You want to take this part, and there's a tiny hole up here and then 3 bigger holes. You want to take the tiny hole one and put it over that metal post. And that should just pop on there, and hold that together and insert that screw. And while you're holding that together, screw this screw in until it's tight. And same with the other ones. Once that first screws in, you don't have to press it together so hard because that one screw's holding it together. Oops. Actually, just insert that. Once those three are in, take your last one, pull this ribbon cable aside and put it in that last hole. Once that's in, now you're going to want to put this ribbon cable, you want to insert it back into this slot here. This can be a little difficult. What I do is I press it down like this, kind of hold it towards the back of the ribbon cable so that you can move it like that and just line it up. And once it's pretty much in there, you can take your fingernail and press on the edge of this tab and plug it in like that. Once these tabs are flush with the actual slot that you plug it into, then you're good. Now you're going to want to do the exact same thing you did with that trigger, but with this trigger. So remove that ribbon cable and remove the 4 screws. Are a little difficult to remove, so again, if you have a small Phillips head bit for a drill, I highly recommend using that. Once those screws are removed, again, pop this piece off, pop this piece off, and remove that metal post. And remove the trigger. Grab your L1, hook it on, make sure that metal spring part is underneath. Slide that on, line up the holes, put your post in, make sure it pops, make sure that's on there good. Line those gears up. Once you have that lined up, put this plastic piece back on and then screw these back in. A lot easier to screw in than unscrew. Now for the last screw over here underneath that ribbon cable. And then, again, insert this ribbon cable like that, and then press it down with a fingernail, or anything. Make sure it's flush. Now you have your two triggers done. Now you want to put them back on. Grab this piece here, keep it up like this. Make sure you put the ones on the correct side. So L2 is going to go on this side. Line up these holes here with these holes here, and this little motor should kind of insert into that hole like that.
Putting it back together is going to take some time. Don't get frustrated and don't give up. Just follow these steps and you'll get it.
And grab your screws. Pop one in there. And hold this together so that it's aligned correctly. Screw that in. Screw. Make sure it's tight in there. And same with the other side. Line that up. All right, now you've done your triggers. Make sure they click. Now you can flip this upside down. Grab your front shell. Bring this over. And with this hanging, you want this square rectangular hole, you want to insert this ribbon cable into that hole as you press it down. That's in there. Now you're going to want to put these screws back in. Start with the black ones on the sides. Just make sure it's in there properly. Make sure those are tight too. Next, these two silver screws. Those going right here. Alright, now that that's done, you're going to want to flip this back up on so that the analog sticks go into their proper spots. So when doing that, I'm going to pull these aside, drop that down on, And before you press it in, make sure that this ribbon cable is pulled out from underneath, like that. And now you should be able to just pop it down on, make sure it's snug. Give this ribbon cable a little pull, be careful because you can rip it. Make sure that's on. And now you can plug your ribbon cables back in.
Keep in mind, ribbon cables either click in or snap in, never force them. If you don't seat them properly, forcing them into place can damage them.
Starting with this blue one. Like that. One of these, you just flip it up and grab the tab. Plug it in like that. Just like that, so that the tabs are flush with the slot. Once those are in, now do this last little one. Alright, now you're going to want to put this battery cover back on. There's little hooks here on the ends that you want to just kind of sweep these wires aside, kind of like this. And screw that in. And once that's screwed in, don't forget your last microphone ribbon cable. I like to put it in now using the pliers. So hold it like this, fold it up so that little tab is showing. Grab it with the corner of your pliers and then plug it in like so. Just like that. And then grab the microphone and this little tab here will go in that slot. Like that. Press that down so it's hooked. Now you want to plug in your battery. I would use this or your tweezers. And once you have it in the plug, get this right on the edge of the plastic and pop it down in. And tuck these wires under this tab here. Now your battery's in. Now you can put on your back shell. So the back shell, make sure that these hook up and over like that. Press those down. And then you press it all together. Make sure these tabs here hook on their own tabs like that. And now you can put all your screws in. Again, be careful when putting these in, because you might drop the screw down in the controller and then you gotta shake it until it falls out. Now that all four of your screws are in, you take your trim piece, and these tabs here are going to go in these triangle slots here, kind of underneath the shell. Like that. Push those in like that, and then just press it down. It should pop on. Pull this up, Pop that on. Pop that on. And then make sure there's no gap here, like that. Now that that's on, now we can do our gold bumpers. These are pretty straightforward. Take your R1, and these triangles here are gonna go in that slot, like this. And just press, make sure it's good. And same with the other side. Make sure that's good. Give it a button test. And there you have it. Customized black with chrome gold buttons.
That's it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Be sure to like and subscribe to see our future DIY and repair videos where we'll show you even more ways to customize your controller. And if you found this video helpful, show us your work in the comments. I'm Colin with Gamenetics. Catch you later.